Hey everybody, it's Heidi Love of the Unfiltered Rise podcast. I'm here with you guys today. I'm so happy to be here and grateful that I am able to be with you guys today. So with that, I do want to say a couple things about my situation. I will never disappear on you guys. I will never just bounce off. If I got bounced off, I got bounced off by somebody. And obviously those people are terrified that I might outperform them because I do believe they were a part of a group of people, as far as what I'm seeing, that took me down and took me out. So yeah, you must be awfully scared. I don't know. But I do not believe in stifling people. I do not believe in suppressing freedom of speech. I do not believe in that for anyone. We have amendment rights for a reason. And the fact that they're not protected better actually blows me away. It actually blows me away that somebody can literally do this to someone else, to their family, to their mom, to their elderly mom who has memory problems and different things that you could even A, do that, but B, that you could sleep at night. Because I know I could never sleep at night if that were me. I would never be able to go to bed and think, oh, look at how great I am. I'm torturing small children, 12-year-olds, and, some lady podcaster in her house with her mom not even at her house. And I'm going to torture her too, just for funsies. Like, oh, you're so great. But that is ridiculous. But, whatever. I will continue to pursue this legally. I will probably continue to pursue this until the day I die legally. And if I find out who is doing this, I will sue you to the full extent of the law. And I do mean if it costs me everything I own, I will come for you. And if you have a podcast, I will come for your podcast and your home and your children's stuff. I don't care. You don't get to do this with no consequences. So if I were you, I would cut and run now because that's enough. But if you want to keep on going, I will keep on going until the day I die. I will find you eventually, because here's the thing that I've learned in life. There's always somebody better. There's always somebody better, somebody that's going to be better than you, like a hacker, whatever, a cop, investigator, a lawyer, IP attorneys, stuff like that. So I do think that you will have some answers to more than the law if that never occurs. You have to sleep at night knowing the things that you do to people. And I don't care if you're a Satanist, if you're, a Christian, if you're a Gnostic. This is not love and light. This is not, and for, the Satanists or the deep occult dark stuff, you still believe in karma. You still believe in round and round worlds. So it's all going to come back at you. So that is for sure. But yeah, as far as what has happened, it's ridiculous. I'm grateful, like I said, to be here. I've missed my audience like you can't believe. I don't miss anything else because I basically was tossed out and forgotten in the midst of moments on podcasting. So that's very strange. But, it tells a story, right? We shouldn't have heroes, number one. We definitely shouldn't. God is number one in our lives always. But, we all look up to somebody or something. And we definitely need to be very careful about that, because that probably got me here a little bit. So, having heroes is dangerous, and, just take that for what it is. Number two, A2 Brute, oh, okay. There's fires here in Utah, so please excuse my voice. But I didn't want to wait any longer so that I could, as I got in, by the grace of God alone, I could get something out, and then hopefully, you guys know that I'm still here. I am not obviously recording with my normal stuff or my mic or my things or anything that I had, because they've destroyed pretty much all of my stuff. And I'm on laptop number 3 and just so many, I can't even, it's a lot of stuff. So anyway, you guys don't need to hear me cry about that, but it has very much set my family back. It has actually harmed us to no end. And to that, you will pay one way or another. To that, you will have to answer for it, whether it be, karmically or whatever. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, because the people that do things like this, they have it tenfold back. So enjoy your torture, because this has been one of probably the lowest spots I've been at since my brother passed away. My brother's pictures and my personal Facebook with all my children's photos on it was completely wiped out and taken away. So moral of the story is, and that's not the only thing, but that was one of the worst things. Back up your stuff. Do not, under any circumstance, think that the iPhone cannot be hacked. It can. And do not, under any circumstance, trust the password thing on this damn machine, because anything. Get you some good old fashioned notebook paper right here and write you a little list of all of your stuff, because that, and hide it. Put it in a, I don't know, put it in a safe. I don't know how much stuff, depending on what you do or have for a living. But if it's pretty serious, you probably should lock that up. Hence why Jeffrey Epstein had a black book, right? Like, I mean, it makes sense now, because I was like, what the hell is he doing with the book? Got it. Right. Okay. So the last we spoke, and I just want to make people very aware, I'm going to try to really focus and explain to people my journey coming out of Mormonism, my thoughts and feelings, which, I can do that legally. Also my sources, I'm going to try to really, really weigh heavy in on sources, because I can't show pictures right now for obvious reasons. And I'm going to try to delve deeper into that history piece that I was telling you guys about, because I'm really excited about that. And also, dead people don't come after people. So yeah, that's fun. So anyways, although jealous people always will, right? So anyways, I am moving forward. I will step off my soapbox on that, but please, for your own safety and sake, double check, where you guys have stored things. The iPhone can be hacked, has been hacked, and is maliciously constantly hacked. So just putting that out there. Anyways, yeah. So the last we left off with the pilgrims, right? And it's just these pilgrims plucked out of obscurity, right? They're headed to the new world. And, it's funny, I saw this information just everywhere right after all my stuff got sent out. But yeah, that's fine. But did you read the books? Did you listen to them? Did you do any of the work? I don't know if you did, but you're welcome. But we're going to say back to the pilgrims. They're plucked out of obscurity and they're headed to Plymouth. And we were there. We're talking about, all of the different people that end up sincerely important, like the Howlands, go forth to give, bloodlines to every president and Joseph Smith. And, lots of other very important people. So do I really believe that the people that they brought here were an accident, right? Like they just want their religious freedom and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't. And for one reason. Okay, here we go. That's probably a good reason. Francis Bacon, I definitely would say, if you don't want to read about Francis Bacon, check out a lot of the works Robert Sepher, Sephyr, has done. He's amazing. I try not to have heroes anymore, but he is a great researcher. And so anyway, you're going to want to look at, the history of why certain people were here. And that's kind of why I always said it's weird that here in Utah, we have this or we have that or this king or that king. And people always say, oh, well, we're all related somehow. Yeah, but not like that. Not that close. Not like that. And I found it strange. Okay. And that was what led me down this little bit of my little journey here on genealogy and different things, because it was my journey. It's my journey, not from my grandma, but she was a genealogist. It was my actual blood tests, and people are like, oh, your grandma lied to you. Okay, cool story, bro. But no, it's my actual bloodlines. Okay. Like I can trace them back. I'm not dumb. I can do that. I spit in the thing. I didn't know any better. So, and I won't be able to edit anything. So me and my asthma, me and my little ticks, me and all, it's just going to be what it is. Oh, and for the people so concerned about my eyebrows, they are almost non-existent without any makeup on them because I'm a lighter haired person, not as blonde as I used to be, but hey, pretty blonde when I was little. It was like white. And so I never had very many eyebrows, and it actually made me laugh when I saw the comment because it's the one thing my daughter gets teased about constantly. And I laughed out loud, and she goes, "What are you laughing at?" And I said, "Well, you know how I told you don't worry about your eyebrows?" Somebody just teased me as a grown-up woman about mine. So, and she just laughed, and it kind of helped her feel better. So, I mean, I guess if that's the way you want to, approach things, cool. I can't leave them alone and let them grow in naturally. They don't grow anymore because after I had radiation from severe cancer, and I had my thyroid taken out and all the things that went along with that cancer, I no longer grew eyebrows like I used to. So, and they were never much to begin with. They were quite sad. So anyway, there's the eyebrow story for anybody that wanted to know. So I do want to start this out with a quote, and I think this quote's really great. And this is from Joseph Smith himself. The more I read about things and the more I delve into history, the more I realize Joseph doesn't bother me as nearly as much as Brigham. Joseph, and he knew some things. And for those that don't know, and when you're uninitiated, and I'm not, and so I'm always going to be uninitiated because I'm not a joiner, okay, any societies. So I'm never going to have the full story. So I'm only going to have what I can find. And the parts I can find, I truly believe he knew some stuff. And whether it was true or not, there goes the question. Like, what is truth? What is history? Who knows? I mean, they lied to us about everything, but at least Joseph Smith believed in what he was saying. He did. He died for it. And though I have a lot of problems with the actual religion, especially nowadays, and how they run it as a corporation, they still have the freedom to do that. And I 100% support that freedom. So long story short, this got him killed, I think. This quote I'm going to read you, and it's on the Mount Follett sermon. And he said this: "Would to God, brethren, I could tell you who I am. Would to God I could tell you what I know. But you would call it blasphemy and want to take my life." And they did. And I feel like that is such a big piece of this Mormon genealogy puzzle. Whether it be true or not, it doesn't matter. We've talked about that before. It's only true, right? The trueness is to whoever is killing for it, or standing up for it, or whatever. I mean, people have fought things, wars, whatever, for less truths often. And so this combined with a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm only going to name one, but I'm trying to give you guys plenty of, all of the ways I get this, all the books, everything else, because I can't put anything up there right now. But anyway, the seer Orson Pratt, this book, okay, from 1853, quoted, "Joseph Smith was a pure Ephraimite." And Orson Pratt's, he's great for things, but probably not so much for the church now. The church then, yes. The church now, no. I just feel like the church should give that up and come around and let people know the magical parts, because they'd probably get like a big bump in their, membership, I think. But anyway, long story short, yeah, they said that, a pure Ephraimite. So put that in your little housing box, and we're going to talk about it. And the JOD volume 2 also says this, okay? The Journal of Discourses, for people that don't know what that is, that's basically all the things in the church where they've redone it and said, we don't like that anymore, so take that out, all right? Another book that I read and really was important. I didn't cover to cover, I did cherry pick this book, The Heritage of the Royal Families by Royden G. Derrick. Okay, these are some of the main books that I'm talking about right now. So it's interesting to me that matriarchal Lucy, okay, this is Joseph Smith's mom. She held a ton of secrets, okay, but not just secrets like you might think, okay? She was no second-rate lady, I'm telling you right now. Lucy coming from the line of deacons, and they called this the Deacon Gates, okay, the Gilsum Gates. And her name was, her mother's name was Lydia Gates, okay? Mac, obviously. She got married to a Mac. And so the Gilsum Gates are very famous. If you look up Gilsum, Gilsum Gates, and you look them up and see who they are related to, even today, that one guy, I'm going to be so careful with certain things because, yeah, maybe whatever. Anyway, the Gates that you might be thinking of, these are all super important people, okay? Not just then, but now. And we see, these Gilsum Gates from this line of deacons. And Daniel Deacon Gates was her grandfather, okay? And Lydia Gates' father. And Lydia was a school teacher. She was no dummy. And she was really actually smart. And she her line had come from another boat to America called the Diligent. And it arrived here in 1638 to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And specifically, Lydia's line traces back to Anne Neve and Stephen Coates. And that's going to be really important. Put that in your back pocket too, okay? They connect this old line of Gates to, of course, our tech bro, that Gates. And this line split off in the 1700s, okay? And if you don't believe me, I want you guys to go look up okay, I'm going to spell it because I'll try and say it. Inanatafel, Inahnentafel. It's basically like your family line, number 28 in the Smith's pedigree. And this is available online. And also these records were seriously watched, and you're going to understand why really soon, okay? So when we talk about these people, it's not like they're just weird random people and nobody cared about them anymore. No. These people were important people, and they were tracked, okay, throughout their line, because not only were there rumors of Lucy's heritage being royal and a pure Ephraimite, she specifically, through John Howland, and also John Howland is one of my family members. I'm not dissing on John Howland. He's just a huge key. Okay, he's a key to the puzzle. And so John Howland was the 8th cousin of Lucy, all right? And John Howland connects to Edward I of England through Lucy's maternal line. And these other people that I named to you are also super important when it comes to this. Also, Elizabeth Tilley, according to Familypedia and Ancestry.com, as well as the actual LDS genealogy at the Joseph Smith Foundation and in the Journal of Discourses 2.268 through 269 in 1855. They are speaking of the descent and the royalty of Lucy. Okay, the other book I always recommend, and I meant to bring it down today, is called The Refiner's Fire, who some wacko thinks that I didn't read or something, and it's all in there, and he didn't come up with this original idea. But anyway, that book is seriously amazing. And The Refiner's Fire is awesome. So check out that book. It goes into a lot of what I go into as far as esoteric stuff, but I mean, they focus on one area. This royal family line, okay, is no ordinary, just willy-nilly line. Like I said, the Bushes come through this line, the Fords, all of these people, okay, including the Smiths, the church, okay, a lot of the church original brothers and sisters. And we're going to find out why. And it actually connects to, my hair is crazy, sorry you guys. It actually connects to my witchcraft episode, which I had no idea it would. And so that was kind of fun for me to see it, connect up. But this is the people that we are talking about for Lucy specifically. And something that's going to be like, people are going to hate this. And I just don't know how else to tell you guys. But, okay, there's something called the Mama Dot. Okay. And the Mama Dot is widely unaccepted. Okay. I don't know, because I wasn't there, what the truth is, but it's heretical. I mean, clearly, other than to the Rosicrucians, I mean, and a few other people. I think it's more like their Bible, not Bible. I don't want to say Bible. I don't know enough about them, but it's important to them. Okay. It's kind of scripture for them that this stuff is real. And I don't know. I'm just telling you guys what I see, what's up. But the Mammoth is technically the children of Jesus, okay? And they are saying that, like Rex Deus and everything, that these children exist, okay? Because supposedly, and I grew up knowing this on the DL because my grandma told me, there was 2 Marys and a Martha that got married to Jesus, and there were children born of this union. And Mary Magdalene is one of the women. And this isn't new to anybody. That there are people all over the internet, especially the Templar, Timothy, why can't I think of his last name right now? He's awesome. He talks all about this. But the Templar stuff will go into this, okay? And so, they really believe in this. And I am not going to tell them that their religious stuff is BS. I'm just going to say what I believe, okay? So, and this is kind of one of the things that, quote, a new order of the Knights of the Royal Cross will one day rule over a world of the ancestors of the fallen angels. So this goes back to why maybe I'm just linking this in my own mind, why maybe the church would say that we are gods, okay? And I don't know if I'm sure there's other people that think that, whatever, that's okay. You can think whatever you want. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I'm just trying to explain this. So with Lucy, she had this blood and the blood was through the Plantagenets. Okay. And I'm going to tell you guys a story about the Plantagenets, and you may recognize it. You may not. A little bit about, the Plantagenista is what it came from, the kind of the sprig of broom that the guy wore in his hair, right? And the Anjou, Anjou, became the Plantagenet because of Geoffrey of Anjou, who wore this sprig in his hair, okay? And Eleanor of Aquitaine, and they get married, okay? And she's in tight with the esoteric Cathars of Languedoc, okay? And under Henry I, the Templars became super strong, okay? And they say, I don't know, okay? I'm just repeating here, that Henry possessed parchments of noble descent and sacred blood, this dragon bloodline, okay? Which Lucy is a part of. And actually one of the quotes, and it made me laugh kind of, was from the devil we came and from the devil we shall return, right? It was one of the famous quotes from that family. So it's just interesting to me, that Edward II, they say, was obsessed with occult and sciences and all this stuff. And it wasn't just baloney. There was proof because he had all these books and papers and everything. And he had they say in the Annals Paulini, they had invoices for Saracen books and all this stuff, okay? So it's not baloney. It's not like hearsay. It was real, all right? And also, they say that Edward Mortimer, his cousin, I think it was one of them, no, just one of the abbey. Okay. He was one of the people over the abbey, the monastery. He dug up these books and retrieved some of them at one point. And also Edward II's prayer book had a bunch of different odd prayers and different stuff in it that wasn't quote unquote Christian. Now, do I believe that people should be able to do what they want and say what they want? Yeah, I do. I really super do. And I don't want to be downtrodden these people, okay? That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to explain why this is important at all for Mormonism and to the families that came here, okay? And so through King Edward I and Queen Eleanor, right, they go forth and have Elizabeth Plantagenet, and she married somebody named Humphrey de Bohun, Debohun, okay? And then we get to William de Bohun, the first Earl of Northampton, and they got married to Elizabeth de Bohun married Richard Fritz Allen, the 10th Earl of Arundel, and Elizabeth Fritz Allen, another after that, So that's his daughter, married Robert Goschill, and Goschill and Wingfield families come to New England, and that's important. And not only did those families come, right, and everything that I'm telling you about, you know, this family, but also there's this crazy story that they came from demons, and I was like, what? This is silly. Like, that can't be true. So of course it's a wise tale, whatever. But according to this, it is called the Demon Countess of Anjou. Okay, according to Wikipedia, just normal Wikipedia. This story has multiple translations, and they originated from Jean D''Arras and Gerald of Wells. Okay, and there's a bunch of others that have repurposed it. But originally, this was called the Princess, let's see, I think it was The Princess in the Castle. I'll find it here in a second, but I'm just going to keep reading for now. So Alinus, the king of Albany, went hunting, and he was sad because he had just lost his wife. And this is the story. He had one son named Nathus, like Nathan, but with an S, from that union. And he ends up at the Well of Thirst, where he meets a fae named Pressine, Pressine. And they fall madly in love, and just before Pressine will marry, she makes Alinus promise he can never see her give birth or when she bathes her children later on. So he agrees, and they are blessed in their union later, and he honors, you know, everything at first. And they have triplet girls, Melusine, Meliere, and Palatine. And eventually the king starts getting weird, and he's like, dude, I don't know, what are you doing? And so the king breaks his promise, and, you know, when he does that, the girls and Pressine leave to the Isle of Avalon. Now, all this is like a old wives' tale or whatever, I guess. But Palatine and Melusine and Melior, they all grow up, and they're getting older, and they get to about 15, right? The age of anger. I want to say, like, I raised a lot of kids. So between 14 and 16 gets a little crazy. So, yeah, at around that age, Melusine, she gets pretty ticked off when she hears about this whole story, and she wants to punish her father. So she goes out and looks for him. She uses magic to, like, disguise herself and everything. And she gets him, and she locks him in a mountain. All right. Well, the mom finds out about this later, and she is ticked. Okay. She gets really mad, and she punishes these three girls. She locks Palatine. I don't know why this girl got the worst of it, but she locks her in the mountain with, like, the dad, and supposedly he died. So I don't know if she just killed him or what, but anyway, in the same mountain as her father, which is called the Brandolo or Brandolais. It's Brandelois. So it's French. And she gets locked in there. And then the other girl, Melior, she gets locked in a castle for the rest of her life. And that made me think of that Rapunzel. I don't know if that's related, but anyway. And Melusine, she kind of gets the least of it. And I mean, in a way, I don't know. This is a weird one, but she gets cursed that if she ever gets married, she gets cursed with two tails. So this is the Starbucks girl. So just so you guys know. So it's like a mermaid, but two split tails at the bottom. And they say that she is, you know, gonna, if she gets married and the guy ever sees her, like, it's gonna be really bad. And so anyway, she meets some guy named Raymond, and later, and they promise, you know, he breaks the promise once again. You guys, geesh, that she doesn't want to be this sea creature for the rest of her life. But yeah, that happens. But anyway, they're good for like 10 years. He keeps this promise, and she bears him, I think it said 10 sons. I think it was. I can't remember, but it was a bunch of kids. And then she had never attended mass, and there's different things. Like, one thing says he made her go to mass, and she freaked out and ran out and turned into a dragon and flew away. The other one is he peeked on her and saw her tails, because I guess she, like, was bathing or whatever, and freaked out and flew away. But either way, it ends with her becoming a serpent, a dragon specifically. All right. And she leaves him with 2 magical rings. I know, we're in the Lord of the Rings. I know. I don't know. Whatever. And never to be seen again. So that is the Demon Countess of Anjou story, okay? This family that supposedly bred, you know, for demon stuff, I guess. I don't know. But it gets crazy, and the story gets even crazier later because this is the families involved with like the War of the Roses, and we're going to get into all kinds of stuff, but not today. But this is Lucy's heritage, and I do believe, I'm going to go back to that quote where, you know, Joseph Smith says that they would kill him if he would tell the truth, right? And so maybe, you know, maybe they did. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of scary when you look at it that way, because I do know this for you guys, and we will cover this, is that on his paternal side, right now we're on mom, but dad is also super interesting. He is a Nile of the Nine. And so the Nile of the Nine kings, and that is a Celtic king, and the Merovingian king, you know, the lines he comes from. So obviously he's been told about this Templar stuff. I already kind of proved that when we did the Dartmouth episode, which I thought was great. Definitely go check that one out if you guys haven't seen it. But, you know, John Dee's somewhere in there, and it gets weird. Like, it gets really weird. And I know everybody says, well, that's just because he found out about Swedenborg, but that's not true. That's not the only reason. Yes, he did. I'm sure he did. And everybody says, well, then he copied from, I never can remember that kid's name, but from one of the classmates, okay, at Dartmouth. And I'll think of it in a minute. And it's a super famous book. I don't know why it's slipping my mind at the moment, but I don't believe that. I truly believe that they all went to school together, because they did. And they all were taught underneath his like great cousin. I guess it's like the cousin on both sides, you know, this first professor of Dartmouth. Okay. And so I just find it fascinating that they blamed it on kind of a plagiaristic point of view, whereas actually they both got the same lecture and maybe read the same book and both did like their own book report on it. And so don't just assume that it's plagiarism when it isn't. Because if you both read the same material and you both talk about it or write about it later, that's not plagiarism. You need to figure that out. But anyway, long story short, what I'm saying is I don't believe Solomon Spaulding. That's the Solomon Spaulding theory, okay? I don't. I know that Solomon Spaulding was at school at Dartmouth. Okay, I have proven that and shown that, and like it's all over the place. I mean, it's not that hard to find, really. And so I'm just saying, I think that's important, okay? I think it's important that we've got one guy teaching the class and we've got multiple versions that are similar. Well, yeah, because he's probably reading them the same book. So yeah, I don't believe that whole theory. I also believe that, you know, Joseph Smith had a lot of esoteric knowledge that is why there was such a hat tip from Aleister Crowley, because he knew that. He knew he was an initiate. And I think that Joseph was way more initiated than he let on, and probably can't, because if he did, again, back to getting killed. So, you know, it's one of those keep it shut, I guess. So long story short, he's definitely important when we're talking about these pilgrims and different people that are settling in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, okay? And this is going to get weird, I promise you. And part of this story is not just Joseph's family. I'm just tying that together for you with a nice bow right now. But also the other people on the boat, like Dr. Fuller, okay? He was allegedly, and he is like on the boat, close friends with John Dee himself, okay? And he was the official physician on the Mayflower. And that's in all the logs. And if none of this matters, right, everybody goes, well, it doesn't matter anymore because genealogy, it's too old. Listen, if it didn't matter, why is there the Mayflower Society? Why is there all these books of like all these first families and all these names and everything else? It's important. Clearly, it's important. And I have these dumb wired headphones because I'm trying to boost my audio for you guys, but hopefully it's working. Anyway, I do think it's important, okay? And this physician, supposedly, I'm going to tell you guys where it's a story and where it's not, was the keeper of some of the most important keys to Rosicrucianism that there ever has been to make it to America, All right. And so they say, I'm not saying, it is said in this story, where as far as Dr. Fuller is concerned, that the faculty of Hebraic manuscripts, medical and alchemical texts, as well as Solomonic magical texts were salvaged from James I and sent here, okay, to the Priory of Sion, which I've done an episode on, and that they ended up here, okay? Fuller and Howland were said to be a part of a seeker network, and they were adamant Stuart loyalists, okay? So, and that's great. That's fine. But this is going to play in way more than you guys may ever think. Like I kind of was blown away because I thought, man, why don't they just tell this story? Like, this is great. Okay. But Brewster, his papers that he brings, okay, Fuller and Brewster, he brings them and they end up to John Winthrop Jr. Okay. And so all of this is happening in this Massachusetts Bay Colony. And I'm telling you, it ties into the Goulds of Topsfield. It ties into the heritage of all these people. And it definitely matters when we start looking back, like at time frames and the Society Draconis in 1408 with the House of Vere and Anjou. And then also with this Gould and, you know, the witchcraft trials, which they were the main people of, and the Goulds were some of the massive accusers, which, you know, the Smiths were in with, and they did, you know, this little situation with Eastie. Mary Eastie did a whole show about that. You guys can check that witchcraft show out. Gallows Hill, I think is what that one's called. So check that out. But ultimately, they become the largest landholders, okay, in Salem after these witchcraft trials, okay? So not only did they do that, but then the Smiths, like the Smiths, end up intermarrying with this family for like 6 generations afterward, okay? So I found that pretty interesting. Like, as for me, I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think, because I'm going to be talking to myself like this for a while. But I thought this whole thing was really interesting as far as Rosicrucianism. And, you know, they had different things also in the minutes of the town of Topsfield, just so people can look up some of this stuff, all right? And they also had that there were spies and different things on those minutes of Topsfield, okay? So the minutes were from, let's see, there were Pierre Plantard and Philippe de Cherisay. I think that's right. And then this is going to get into, and let's see what our time's at. All right, we're good. I'm going to try and keep these mostly about an hour-ish because, yeah, I don't know how you guys will like it without me interviewing, so you guys can let me know. But like I said, you know, this family, these people that end up here, it's just really interesting, okay? It's more than interesting, it's important. And this ends up being like in the Revolutionary War Archives, Joseph Smith Papers, Topsfield Historical Society, Salem Archives, Mount Vernon Digital Archives, and Encyclopedia for the next thing I'm going to tell you, because it's going to kind of blow you guys away. And I only found this stuff because I was researching his family lines. That's it, okay? I didn't know that it was going to go here, all right? But John Winthrop Jr. was a famous alchemist, and his journals of him and Jonathan Smith, who was from the 1650s, is Joseph Smith's distant cousin. All right. So John Winthrop Jr., alchemist, natural magician. He's going to be more important next time. I feel like I shouldn't say too much about him right now, but his family was here, you know, because of a resistance, and like I said, they were Stuart supporters. And Captain John Gould II was also a part of this circle, all right? And Dr. Samuel Fuller, he was also in the Stuart situation, all right? So all these people and the Smiths end up, you know, having these weird, I guess I'll say journals, or not weird, but important journals of healing and Rosicrucian medical texts. And like I said, this magical everything, all right? And the Stuarts also link to the Nile of the Nine, and that has been proven by Hugo Perego. And Hugo Perego has done the dissection of the DNA of Joseph Smith, and they have nailed that down to the RM222 gene. So I'm not just talking to talk, like this is real, okay? And these rebels, the London and Leiden separatists, okay, these intellectual rebels, they had Rosicrucian manifestos, Paracelsian works, and I'm glad, like all these things are important. I don't think it's bad for knowledge ever. Like, I really don't. And I don't know enough about, Rosicrucians in general to put any way on it one side or the other. I'm just saying these manuals were this special library, and there were Hermetic agents, and they were Jacobite sympathizers, okay? And when we look at this stuff and we know that there are other people involved, like Thomas Brewer, okay? He gets in trouble. He's a high-level seeker. He was arrested for publishing the Gnostic Solomonic manuscripts, okay? So he's involved. Samuel Fuller, once again, we get back to the Fuller doctor. He received the paper and was the official physician with the Pilgrims. And then the Strong family gets involved in this. And, they say that they were like in the same circles, okay, as Captain John Gould, and that also Captain Samuel Smith, so the second, and through Joseph Smith Sr., that these people became keepers of these really important manuscripts, okay? And these manuscripts get entangled with their fighting for freedom and justice too, which I think is great. But they end up being a part of this Culper spy ring, okay? And they're going to tell you that Joseph Smith's family didn't have crap to do with it, but that Timothy, I can't believe I forgot his last name right now. I listen to him all the time. He's like the top Rosicrucian Templar guy right now, okay? He's I don't know why I can't remember his name, but anyway, I can't look it up because we're on here. He's the Templar guy, and put in Timothy Templar, it'll come up. But he said his grandpa was at the Boston Tea Party, and he helped, this great-great-grandpa of his, he helped plan it. Well, I know that Joseph Smith's family also was there and helped plan it. And so Captain Samuel Smith II. So it's all over. Like, that's historical record. Like, I don't know why they try to ever get rid of it, but they were top, people in Topsfield, and there's a whole thing about it. So I've done episodes on this, but it's seriously interesting to me that he says, yeah, that was my great, however many greats grandpa, and Hogan. I think it's Tim Hogan. I think that's his name. I think that's right. Anyway, he had to be with Joseph Smith's family. So, of course, Joseph Smith knew some Rosicrucian stuff. That makes no sense that they didn't, okay? And then these families, like the Macks even, we're going to get into the Macks. That's a whole episode on its own, because there's all kinds of back and forth saying, yeah, whatever, but there's a story there, okay? So we get into this whole Culper spy ring where basically, from what I'm reading, they were working underneath, George Washington as an intelligence unit. And remember, they knew John Dee. Like, the one guy it's proven that the doctor on the Mayflower actually was very close to Dee himself. And that makes sense because he's a doctor too. So, I mean, obviously, like, there wasn't that many probably back then. And that, according to Revolutionary War Archives, the Joseph Smith Papers, Topsfield Historical Society, the Salem Archives, and the Mount Vernon Digital Encyclopedia, all this is going on. And the Strong family, who were spies for the Stuarts and Stuart loyalists, also became known as, vault keepers of this. So John Strong was his name. He alluded that the Smiths and Goulds of Topsfield elites were part of this ring. And you know, this is what they say, and that they were a big supporter of restoring ancient Jewish ways. Okay. But when we say Jewish, you have to understand, and there is other Jewish ties. We know that because I talked to you guys last time about the one that taught him Hebrew, and that was Seixas, Seixas, who are huge in history. Okay. So we just have to look at this whole picture and say, okay, we've got all this happening, and all of this stuff is going on. There's also another book called Following the Ark of the Covenant and the Gold of Carthage by Carrie Ross and Lisa Lee Boren. That is a big help to this information. You guys need to check out. But they are literally saying that this was the first Rosicrucian magical stuff that came here, and Dee and Woodall were both part of, you know, the Hermetic philosophy, Paracelsian medical texts, all this stuff. So, and Woodall and Heel, who was also the helper to the doctor, Healel, were lifelong acquaintances of John Dee. And so I'm just saying, like, this gets into the Zionistic Brotherhood. This is going to get to a weird place. You know, I mentioned it in one of my episodes. It has about Prince Madoc, and, you know, this place in Belgium named Mormont, Mormont. Okay, and the Zionistic Brotherhood, and Ephrata, and the Order of Melchizedek. They built a temple on Zion's Hill. I just was like, whoa. And apparently the Whitmers were a part. And if you don't know, if you aren't familiar with Mormonism, the Whitmers are huge. Okay. They're a part of this group. They're all right. And they also are saying they're possibly related through Lucy Mack Smith through Alexander Mack. Well, this has been hard to verify, but The Widow's Son by Carrie Ross O'Boren, and also by Royal Skousen, which, if you know that name, whoop, Skousens is big in the Mormons. Okay, the Cochranites come out of this group, but I don't think that it was just because of one thing, right? There's like this whole, it's like star out, okay? And it's a huge deal. Like, I've been waiting to tell you guys about this, and I've been really excited about it because I think that all of this together, when we step back and look at it, it just tells a story that I've never heard before. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad story. I think it's fascinating, honestly. If they are part of the Culper spy ring and they're Mormons and stuff, and then it gets into this chapter of perfectionists and these monks and weird stuff, like out in the woods, this lady of the wilderness stuff. But they say Ephrata doesn't have anything to do with it, but I find it sus that it's like the exact same name, and they're like, no, not that one. But we'll see. I'll present it regardless, and you guys can decide for yourself. But all of these relatives are connecting with these Templar relatives, right? And this Templar guy, he says he was initiated at like 8 years old. Okay, so obviously these people all knew each other. Like, we're not talking about nowadays where maybe you might serve with somebody once and never see them again. No, I highly doubt that. Okay, so we got to look at all of this. We really do. We need to look at the first families. They're significant. They are, you know, possibly in the Culper spy ring. That's a real thing. You guys can check that out. Like I said, it was George Washington's intelligence network for the American Revolution, which totally makes sense if they knew John Dee. And they use things like the number 711 to communicate. They also use clandestine symbols, Freemasonry, magic, all this stuff. Benjamin Talmage, the leader of this ring, was a classmate of Nathan Hale, Emma's relative. And where? At Yale. At Yale. So Isaac Hale, Emma's father, was a Revolutionary War hero. I don't know why they hide this stuff. This one was actually badass for me. This one was actually super cool because I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I mean, never heard that before, you know. Also, cousins through Robert Hale were Puritan elites, but not only the Puritan elites, Brigham Young and Nathan Hale were fourth cousins. They both came from who? Elder John Strong. We're going to, I mean, can't make it up. Nathan's mother was Elizabeth Strong, and Brigham's was Abigail Howe, whose grandmother was Strong. And so this makes so much more sense. And like I said, I just really can't understand why they would hide it because I think it's freaking awesome. But Anna Smith Strong, I mean, I don't know if it's the Smith. I got to check into it. I mean, they say it was a cousin to both Nathan and Brigham, was the clothesline spy code lady. And actually super fascinating, I think. I'll do more on the Culper spy ring if you guys let me know if you want to know about it, or if we should just keep going on history, let me know. But I find this mind-boggling, blowing, whatever you want to say. The Strong Hale Young network was Puritan separatists who changed to Seekers. Now, this is really important because Emma's brother, Jason Mack, all right, they don't talk about Emma's family, and Emma's freaking important. Okay, those Macks, boy, I mean, Stephen Mack, he's going to go on to found in Detroit, you know, like one of the first banks and all this stuff. And it's just crazy. So we'll get into that, but they don't ever talk about it. Okay, never. I don't understand why. It's awesome. And the Goulds and the Putnams are related to the Macks, who were the afflicted people in this whole witchcraft stuff. So maybe that's why they're trying to keep it quiet, but I don't think it's worth skipping out on all this cool stuff. I really don't. The Howes and Woodburys both served on the jury of the Salem witchcraft trials as well. So just letting you guys know. And I know I'm kind of all over with this one, but I haven't done it in a minute, so forgive me. I'm sorry if I'm all over, like worse than normal. And like I said, the Seekers, Jason Mack, was known as a seeker. And funny enough, he went out and started his own little commune. And his commune was for, it was like a communistic thing. And so we'll get into that. And he goes up to Canada, New Brunswick, to do this, okay? So I just found this super interesting. That's all I can keep saying, okay? The other thing I found a little bit crazy interesting, and I haven't got to go through this yet, was in the Ephrata cloister, Ludwig Biderman, Bidderman, and all y'all that are Mormon just went, oh, because again, Biderman, that's a big name when we're talking about Mormons. Okay, Zimmerman, Selig, Heinrich, Koester, and Daniel Faulkner. These are all these followers, and there was only about 40 of them, okay? And they're the ones that go to Ephrata, to this woman in the wilderness place. And they say it's the first Rosicrucian colony in America, in Pennsylvania. So I'm going to do more on that one as well, but I just felt like that was mind-blowing when I looked at it. I just thought that was so fascinating. Also Mullins, William Mullins Heale, Heale, like I said, he was the surgeon's mate, and he was super close to John Dee. He also had John Woodall was the chief surgeon in East India, and he studied underneath him. So, you know, these guys, he was an alchemist, and I mean, not a huge surprise there back in the day, but they were specifically Paracelsian. Okay, so that is a little bit different. And when we talk about this and the life, you know, of these people that has been so badly forgotten, I just feel like, wow, what a sad situation if they really just let this go. And I have to say, you know, the Lamech, Layman and Lemuel and Lamech and all this stuff that's in the Book of Mormon, you can see a lot of this in the they call them the Schwarzen, brethren, or the Dunkers, and it goes into this whole situation at Ephrata, okay? And it goes into Agrippa's stuff, and just, it's fascinating. It's seriously awesome. I thought it was such a cool thing to find all of this stuff when we don't hear anything anymore. Okay, at all. We don't hear anything about this. We don't hear about, Mormons being involved in any of that. Like, I know Mormons obviously have been involved in some stuff as far as politics before, because, Joseph Smith ran for president, but you don't really hear a lot before then. You don't. Like, you do later once they get to Utah, but all this stuff was happening in Massachusetts. And for Lucy to be a Plantagenet bloodline, and I wanted to mention, those bloodlines are so watched, like these descendants that intermarried, and I mean, I can tell you guys like exactly which ones and everything on here, but it gets kind of boring. They kept track of them so close because these are technically, possibly part of the crown. Okay, so they have to actually keep a really good record of this. And so they have, and they have it. And that is why they were able to find it so easy, is they have these manuals where it shows that these people, this historical genealogical society and all this, it's called the NEHGR, New England Historical Genealogical Society. Also, David Ferris's 17th Century Colonists book, and the John Whitmer Historical Association, volume 28 from 2008 and josephsmithsenior.org, all are going to give you guys the backing for this. And so Richardson Douglas, Royal Ancestry, volume 1, Salt Lake City, 2013, and Barrington, I think it is, and Christopher Batt is also tied into that, and it shows their medieval taxes and their national archives and all this stuff they also were connected with the bloodline there. So there's no question for me, because of all the studying I've done, that 110%, she was a Plantagenet, just as she said she was. And so, Uncle Jesse, I think it's her brother later, he ends up, accused of some weird golden calf worship. Said the angel of the Lord told him to do it. Some weird stuff happened in there. The Goulds and restoring ancient ways. We got to remember that for when we get into the Sykes family. Solomonic text making it here. The London and Leiden separatists, you need to make sure and put that in your back pocket. The Jacobites, that's going to be important. All of this stuff, it just goes. I mean, it is wild. I just can't believe. But, you see this stuff, like they're talking about Melchizedek, which is huge for Mormons. They're talking about, Zion. They're talking about all this stuff that I'm reading it, and there's no doubt for me, because I'm like, whoa, because I know enough to know, right? Because I was initiated to that, unfortunately. Not that they're horrible people or anything like that, but just it's not honest, just like all of this, right? And why is it not honest? Because they don't want you to know that they think that they're part of the dragon court of angels that, are going to rule over everybody one day, which does make sense in the point where they say, we'll all be gods and whatever. I mean, that kind of does make sense. So I don't know why they don't say that. I mean, the quiet part out loud would have been nice while I was in, because maybe it would have helped me understand enough to not be angry when I came out. And so we also need to, again, look at Francis Bacon, and we will. Francis Bacon, the Brave New World stuff is crazy. The links with John Dee and Elizabeth and all kinds of wild stuff with him. But that this might have been a big religious experiment. We might be a huge experiment. And I don't think they would just pick some Tom, Dick, and Harry to do that experiment. I really don't. I think that these people were planned here. I think these people were tracked. I think their bloodlines are tracked, and that's why genealogy became so important to them. It was huge. It was huge for them. And it's also why they're Zionists. I mean, Mormons are huge Zionists. They are. And I'm not saying that to be mean at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm saying, truthfully, since I was a child, I was always told that. Like, we support Zion. We do. We support Jerusalem. We support Israel. We support it all. And no, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just telling you guys that's how it is. So when we look at this stuff, right, and these different ways that this can go into and the different things that these people knew, is it any real surprise that Joseph Smith knew some of the stuff he knew? No. It's the thing that they ruined it with is hiding it all. But I understand back then, because like back then they probably had to, but not now. Not now. Like, they need to stop this. And honestly, who wouldn't want to be like, yeah, I was a Mormon, and you know, they were spies. That's pretty cool. I don't know. Like, it's kind of cool. But, you know, we just got off of the 4th of July here. It's Pioneer Day on the 24th of July. And we're coming up on that. And so that's, you know, the day that they celebrate Utah. So, you know, we'll do some more stuff on this if you guys like it. Let me know what you guys think. I'm definitely interested on going down this whole situation. The dragon bloodlines were covered really well. I will be covering a little more probably about that, just because I think it's super fascinating. And all of these different societies matter that come out of that, whether it's true or not, they believe it. So that doesn't matter if it's true or not. It doesn't matter. What matters is what they fought and believed in. And so, you know, therefore the Templars, therefore, you know, how does Timothy Hogan, I think that's his last name, I'm so sorry if it isn't, but how does this guy that's the Grand Master Templar end up sitting across the table planning the Boston Tea Party with Joseph Smith's family? That's what I want to know. And why do they hide it? Like, if they're Templars, so be it. I don't care. I don't think we should care. I mean, like, isn't it freedom? Isn't it freedom for a reason? I don't know anymore. I understand back in the day, but not now. Not now. Like, I think they should be able to do and say what they want. I would like to do the same. So as for me, yeah, and my asthmatic voice here, that's what I've been looking at. I've got pages and pages and pages of how this spirals out. Let me know if you guys like it, if you want to keep going down that, or if you want to go down another area of history. But I feel like if I start here and just keep going straight down, like, we'll get to Brigham, we'll get to all of them. And that's my plan. Like, that's my plan, down, down, down. You know, and Masonry is going to come into it. Rosicrucianism is going to, I'm not a Mason. I'm not a Rosicrucian. I'm not any of these things. So I can only give you the little pieces that I learned. Please don't think that I know everything or that I think I do, because I don't. I am learning right alongside you guys. And the only thing I can do is just, you know, give it back to you what I'm learning and how it fits into what I already know. I am not a scholar of all things. I don't think I am either. Like, some people I know have come against me for that, and I think that's wrong. And they also say, like, I hate Masons and I hate Mormons. No, I hate that they lie. I hate that they lie. I live somewhere where I am constantly persecuted every single day just for being here because I left. And I'm constantly persecuted online. So, like, really, obviously, I must be saying something critical, okay? But at the same time, maybe it's time to let go. Maybe it's time to let it go and let the good come out with the bad, because hiding history never works. It doesn't work. And also, some badass stuff happened there, man. I wished I'd have known that stuff, like, when I was young, you know, growing up. You probably would help some kids, like, understand that it's not just a bunch of guys in suits. Like, there was some cool stuff, including Jesse James. We're going to get into that. No, I'm not talking about Jesse James Strang, but he is important. But this is a whole different thing. So, yeah, I just found it like, what? But I knew about Jesse James because my grandma wrote a book about it. So, anyway, long story short, I hope you guys are going to stay with me. I'm hoping to do 2 of these a week. I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully people will get off of me, because I'm just trying to be interesting and share. And honestly, if it isn't that, then you all know what it is. They're trying to squash me because you guys like me, and that's crap too. I would never do that to anybody else. Never, 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 never. So, you know, there's reasons why I feel the way I do. And like I said, there's legal stuff involved now and lawyers. So I'm not going to say a ton on that, but there are some things that are pointing in certain directions. And like I said, if I get enough solid proof with the IP attorney, you will know, because I will serve you. So Anyways, long story short, much love. I have missed you guys like crazy. I hope this touches you guys and helps you, read more books and fuel the fire, and let me know. Let me know. And I'm glad. Much love. Glad to be back. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.